Mr. Wise, as a matter of public record, I must advise you that I strongly advise against this reckless course of action that will almost certainly cost you your life.
Understood.
Off the record, I will tell you that you're a man of rare courage, and I pray your aim is true.
Thank you.
You're a man of few words there, Robert.
That is what my the people that I know me for. Whenever they text me, I usually text in a single word, and yeah, it has become a meme now in my family.
Okay.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. I am not your queen, nor the owner of the earth. I am your host, Robert.
And I'm none of those exciting things, but I am your co-host, Ray, down in South Florida, which is otherwise known as Australia, which is baking at the moment, but that's summer for you down here.
Yeah.
That and the million cicadas, which just create white noise like from 4 a.m. in the morning. Lovely.
Nice. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And we are still chaosless.
We are, but not for long.
Not
I hear
for long.
he's imminently due back in not South Florida.
Yeah, he's actually worse, closer to the sun right now. So I heard he's
going to come back burnt to a crisp. He's reenacting Sunshine, if you know that movie.
Nice.
What have you been watching, Robert?
I guess I am addicted. I am totally addicted.
You're allowed.
Dan. You know, there's a reason why there's so many TikToks about this show. It is that good.
A number of memes. I just keep finding them.
Yeah. I also watched the last episode of Demon Lord 2099. Really,
Oh, you're ahead of me. You're ahead of me.
Well, remember, when I say last, I mean last English dub. There's a couple episodes there are only subtitles that I actually saved for later until they're dubbed and then watched.
Oh, yeah.
So if you watch the okay, and now I'm getting distracted.
For those watching on YouTube, it's a meme. It has to do with grammar. Punctuation is important.
Oh God!
If you want to know what that is, you either need to be watching us on YouTube, which would be great if you would. Likes and subscribes are optional but greatly appreciated. And yeah, there's lots of Dan memes out.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, if you want to help this show, and you can't do it in a monetary sense, subscribing would be the best next thing you could do. Is completely free, and you will be helping us out. So you can subscribe to wherever you listen to our show. You subscribe on Spotify, and you can subscribe to our show on YouTube. And what are we watching now?
Merchandising goes mad.
Oh my God, that is epic. I need those.
And I'm not going to tell the people watching the pod what that is. You just have to go and watch it on YouTube. I know I'm railroading you. I'm sorry, but we need your help.
No, that's quite all right. Going back to Demon Lord, this is a show that we have to cover in here. It is so epic how they're mixing, and I know we spoke about this earlier, but if you're new to the show, this Demon Lord 2099 mixes fantasy with science fiction, cyberpunk. It mixes a bunch of things, and is so clever in the way that it is done. So if you're never watched it, just kind of give it a chance. Watch maybe the first and second episode, so you know what I'm talking about.
It's not the first show that's had magical powered technology. I mean, it's the current anime that does, but there's been a bunch of other ones. Knights and Magic, which had magic powered mecha.
Do they have
which would be
cyberpunk as well?
not straight cyberpunk. It was more a mecha show,
Yeah.
but it was magical powered mecha. And then I think it was the I'm trying to remember the name of it. The Assassin's Way of Life, I think it was called. Basically, it was a woman who went around finding all these people who've been isekai to her world and killing them because they get these powers which were completely broken, and if they got out of control, they could destroy the world. So she was getting rid of them before they could destroy the world.
Wow. I think I hear the cicadas every time you speak.
Yeah, you probably do. They're still going. Yeah, I have my own personal white noise generator. It's called the environment. Every tree is covered in cicadas. So yeah, it's not new, but I mean the way they do it is almost pure cyberpunk in Den World 2099, which makes it cool as.
So if you like cyberpunk, I venture to say you're gonna love that show. So, and the last one that I want to mention for as my last one here is Cowboy Bebop, the Netflix the live action version. And at this point is almost torture that I inflicted upon myself. And let me explain why. I love the show. I love the anime. I love the live action. They're not exactly the same, but I appreciate it for what it is. It is an amazing show, and the reason why I say that I do that to myself is because I know that there's no season 2. So this is the only way that I can get my fix. Just rewatch that only season that we got, and hope that somewhere in the future they change their minds and we can have more. But yeah, that's everything that I've been watching that is sci-fi related so far.
A busy lead up to Christmas then.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, shock upon horror, I've been watching Den.
Surprise!
Yeah, you should be. Not at all. I mean, I like Den so much. I watch it on Crunchyroll, and then I watch it again on Netflix. It's just one of those things. But yeah, no, I'm loving it, and I'm just so sad that there's only one episode left. But got some good news on the anime front. Obviously, we're sci-fi, but I'll just deviate for a few seconds. But I said the other day, where's my season 2 of Skeleton Knight in Another World? Because I just did a rewatch. And last night I was going to bed and I opened up my iPad and it throws up all these things about anime and science and stuff. It knows me way too well. Yeah. And it said season 2 of Skeleton Knight in Another World, given green light. And it was a message on X from the creators saying that they got greenlit and they were starting to work on it. I'm like, yes, tell the universe what you want. You get it. Now, where's my Alita Battle Angel 2? Exactly. Come on, universe.
Chop.
On, universe. Yes, chop. But loving Dan. Looking forward to the last episode, but also sad because it'll finish. New season of Solo Leveling.
Oh yeah,
just after New Year's. So I'm looking forward to that.
I might be getting the game.
Ooh.
There's a game. I'm considering it.
Have you read the manhwa?
Oh no, not yet.
Oh, that's beautiful. The artist, he's not a manhwaka. He's not a comic drawer. He's an artiste.
Oh,
it's seriously beautiful. So I highly recommend it. It's available online. You just Google Solo Leveling manhwa, and you can read it online. But it's beautiful. I read the whole thing in one hit. I could not stop. It was a Friday night, and when I finished, it was like 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning.
Wow.
It was so good. Just beautiful artwork, great story. Just could not put it down. But yeah, highly recommend that one. But yeah, what have I been watching? So it's Den to Den. Well, I actually have Demon Lord 2099 current episode to watch. I have another episode. They just keep coming of Shangri-La Frontier to watch, which is in its second season already. Like 2 seasons in a year, and the first season was 24 episodes. I'm like, bloody hell! somebody really likes this story. They're just pumping it out. But yeah, looking forward to watching. I haven't got to it yet. But I've been listening to one of my favorite channels on YouTube now, obviously, HFY Sci-Fi Stories. So I've been picking up a few more of those. The ones I listened to this week that stood out was aliens shocked by their first glimpse of a human battleship. That was a cute one because most of these stories are like, oh yes, humans are pathetic. And we're much older than they are, and rah rah rah, and we turn the tables on them because we're awesome humans. But this one was more a case of the largest sort of coalition of alien species bumps into humans, and they go, "Holy crap! These human battleships are monstrous. Why have they built ships like that?" Go, yeah, well, the first contact we had with this thing was this mob called the Swarm. You think Tyranids from 40K. Yeah, you're gonna need some big guns for those suckers. You're like giant space can of Raid. Put space in front of anything, it makes it cool. So this giant space can of Raid for the space bugs. But yeah, so the humans had some pretty meaty battleships and stuff, space battleships. But they got together with this coalition, and the coalition had all this awesome stealth technology and sensors and things, and they got together, and this new threat from a higher dimension rocks up and starts screwing space up, and it takes the two groups working together to defend the galaxy from it. That was pretty cool. I didn't mind that story. But the one that I really liked, and I think you should have a listen to, Robert, is Laughter Turned to Silence when humanity's eighth dimensional ship arrived.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's got a lot of stuff on. Actually, a few of these stories are now all sort of going into quantum drives and using the quantum realm and all this sort of stuff for their technologies and things like that. And this one's about the first interaction between humans and alien species, and the alien species are also like, technology. We've been flying around space for 100,000 years, and you've just got out here, and we're better than you, and rah rah rah. And basically, humans took a look at these guys and went, well, yeah, that's all fine and good, but you've had all of these ideas in your head for 100,000 years, and you accept them as read. But us humans, we're just looking into this stuff with fresh eyes, and we see things that you haven't. And then they went back to Earth and developed this these ships that could get further into higher dimensions than this alien species. And then this alien mob rocked up who were actually from a higher dimension and were twisting space-time. And it wasn't going so well for these arrogant aliens. And then the human eighth dimensional ship showed up and helped save the day. So yeah, hooray for humans. It's always good when humans save the day. You're kind of like, yeah, humans, awesome, did something right.
The virus of the galaxy are here.
That's right. we are here. Yes. But no, I mean, it's sort of like playing us as the underdog, and then we do things that the so-called superior aliens don't expect, which kind of makes you feel good.
Yeah,
feel good sci-fi. So quite nice.
Nice. Okay, so should we move on to our first segment?
Sure.
We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-fi.
And if you're new to the show, this is the segment where we highlight the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi. And what is this, you ask? It is our way to try to bring the sci-fi community together under one flag. So if you are a creator of any type of sci-fi, you could be, it could be a podcast, it could be a movie, TV show, book, which, by the way, I would like to thank the writers out there, which, in our opinion, they are the gods, the creator of worlds. Because we right now we have a big influx of writers in the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi. So I really, really appreciate you guys jumping in. But that's one of the examples. If you're the creator, all you gotta do is whatever you post, that thing that you created that you love so much, just add the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi at the end. If you're a fan and you have that one sci-fi that you love so much that you can't stop talking about, whenever you do your post on social media, all you got to do is add the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi at the end. And all we all have to do is just follow the hashtag and enjoy the conversation as a whole, from all types of sci-fi, from all types of IPs, all type of medias. And a couple of things I've seen over the years with the use of hashtag is not only, number one, we gain new friends. There's people that follow the things that you love so much that you otherwise would not be exposed to, and you learn about that, you start talking about that. The person who originally posted finds another person to talk about the thing they loved so much. Also, you get in touch with creators. They are creating sci-fi, and overall, it creates a huge conversation about sci-fi, which is what this show is all about. It's all about the conversation. So remember, if you are a creator, add the hashtag This Is Sci-Fi at the end of your post. If you're a fan, if you're posting, and we can all follow the hashtag and enjoy the conversation. Ray, anything that you want to add to the hashtag segment?
Sure. Well, it might seem like sci-fi, but this week Google released information on their new Willow quantum computer chip.
Oh my God, I was so excited about that. It's amazing. It's freaking amazing. I saw the video.
All right, cool. Do you remember any details from that? I've got like a little bit here, but
no, you know what? I was just Google Eye. I was just glossing. I'm like, I can't believe we're living a day, but this is out, and I'm like, he's throwing out all those technical details, and they're just going over me. I'm just going, like in anime when you see the big eyes and the stars and the eyes. That was just ignoring everything else.
Well, I don't know if you've got up to it when you're beta reading my novel for me, but there is a section in there where Nakama, the AI, quotes its quantum capacity.
Yeah. That is the coolest thing ever.
I put that in there for you.
It's so cool. And how, I guess they're using the quantum mechanics to superposition. So when he's able to travel, the AI could travel with him. And so that I found that to be really, really clever as well.
Well, I hope to get that novel finished maybe over Christmas, maybe to January or February. So it might be out next year. We'll spruik it here. We'll cover it. But so I'm writing a sci-fi novel, as you may have gathered if you've listened to previous episodes. So it's coming along. But getting back to Willow for a second, I'll just quote a little bit of the article on Willow from Forbes. Yes, that Forbes. It says Willow's qubits have a vastly improved retention time, known as T1 times, which has been increased by around 5 times compared to previous chips, allowing them to hold information for longer periods, a crucial factor in ensuring accuracy and stability. So basically, that it's 5 times better than the previous chip, which is impressive, because I think quantum computing technology had plateaued for a while. There hadn't been any great advances, so it's always good to hear that it's improving. These sorts of things, there's no, it tends not to be a revolution, but an evolution. So very slow and steady progress, but there needs to be progress. There needs to be improvements so that we can get to a point where it's usable.
One of the things that I remember from the conversation, from the video that I watched, is how they improved the qubit retention. There's usually a very short, I want to call it shelf life on qubits. And they increase, I can't remember the details. I would have to kind of go back to that. It was really impressive, regardless of the details or not, that they're able to improve on the retention. So the Willow has a longer shelf life for qubits, which allowed them for better computation. I think it also helps for error accuracy.
Yeah, fault tolerance. Yeah.
So that was like really impressive. Also, it wasn't necessarily implied, but the video that I watched was related to AI. So I wonder if, Google will eventually, or is planning to. I mean, number one, I know they're going to use it for the search engine. That's going to be a big thing. But I wonder if this is going to be somehow incorporated into Gemini. And that would be cool in one part and scary in another, if that makes any sense. Considering what they said, the computational power that this thing has. And again, I can't remember the details, but they were comparing a simple computation that Willow is able to do in, was it 5 minutes? And please forgive me for the details. I'm trying to remember. But it just the underlying message that I find very, very impressive is that let's say around 5 minutes for Willow to do, for the fastest supercomputer in the world. We're talking about the normal computers that we know today.
Silicon based. Yeah.
It would be longer, and they actually said the number, right? It's a huge number of years, but I want to translate it to longer than the life of the universe to complete the same task that Willow could do in 5 minutes. I was just like,
See, the biggest problem with general use AI at the moment is the computing expense.
Mhm.
So, when an AI spits out a message back to you from a query that you've typed in, you think, oh, it's got it right, or that's interesting, or that's a load of crap, or whatever it happens to be, whether it's been trained accurately or not, or whether your prompt has been presented in the right format so that it could actually give you a logical answer or not. And this is a function of the early phase that we're in with these sorts of, in inverted commas, AI systems. But the thing that's holding AI back at the moment is the computational cost. Try saying that 5 times fast. So if you look at graphs of server load, excuse me, with in the last 5 years, when AI came into the mix, even just for early testing and stuff, computational load on servers has gone through the roof, both in cycles and in power, how much power they're using. because of course, if a server's not busy, it's idling, it doesn't use as much power. But if it's running flat chat the whole time, then it uses more electricity. And these servers are chewing through electricity, and that is a significant cost. That is why AIs are now, required subscriptions, because they cost a lot to run, and the companies can't afford to just foot that bill all the time. Now that they're not asking you to try them out as an experiment to help them make them better, now that they're at a point now where they're saleable, they're asking money for them, and that's because they have a high computational cost. Now, look forward a year or two when something like Willow becomes commonplace. That computational cost will go down because quantum chips don't use nearly as much electricity as silicon. So basically, quantum computing is what AI needs to flourish. And when quantum computing becomes the norm, AIs are going to take off, and they're going to become really cheap. So that's my expectation.
One of the things that, and again, if you're not too versed into the topic, that I feel like I need to explain in order to explain why I find it to be really exciting, is if you use AI right now, your encounter, just like you mentioned, Ray, it either works or it doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, you keep on reinforcing your prompts, and you get maybe closer to what you want, and it feels like you're actually working. It's not like you're guiding the AI into what you want it to be, and it takes iterations. So the AI, behind the scenes, you don't see this, but it uses the same computational power to come up. I'm just putting a number here so I can express my thoughts, but maybe 2 or 3 iterations, and then it picks what's best, and that's what it serves to you. Occasionally, you will find it interesting to see that if you use any of those like ChatGPT or Copilot, then all of a sudden it gives you like, as a test, here are 2 choices. Pick the best one for you. That doesn't happen very frequently, but I've seen it, and I'm sure you have seen it if you ever use any of these AI systems, where you are kind of still helping the system decide, out of the iterations, which one was actually the best one in your opinion. Now, let's fast forward to quantum computing. And this is something, and the reason why I said it's so exciting to me is the fact that quantum computer can do those iterations at the same time. And that is incredible to me. So the results on an AI system using quantum computer would be day and night, because
Massively parallel.
exactly, it will do computations, iterations of your answers, the answers to your question in parallel, all at the same time, and pick the best one. And I'm not talking about 2, 3, 4. We're talking about hundreds of iterations, and pick the best one out of those 2. So
At an operating cost which would be far less than current silicon can produce.
So yeah, I am excited for quantum, and that's one of the reasons why. And if you listen to our previous episodes, the thing that excites me the most about quantum computer is its application in the medical field. And if you listen to our episodes earlier on, you heard me rant about how medical research is currently done and how quantum computer could make it better. Um, just imagine doing all those iterations on the um, uh, chemical interactions of whatever it is that you're mixing together to cure or solve a particular biological problem, could be done all in iterations of 200, 300 iterations, all at the same time, parallel to other iterations. um it, it My mind breaks. just thinking about the benefits and how medicine will be completely reinvented by this thing. What is your thought on that? Because I know you want to say something.
Well, no, I was just going to say that maybe overthinkers in the future will have a quantum upgrade so that they can overthink many different things all at the same time.
Oh my God, quantum thinking. That's what I want. That's what I asked for. Quantum thinking. Come on, bring it on.
Yeah, then you can overthink about 6 different things rather than just one at the same time.
Exactly. You save time.
That's
Uh,
right.
there's so many hours in the night, right? So
Yep, that's right. You got to do some sleeping sometime. Now, if you have an opinion on quantum computing, you can drop us a line. We have a hotline. The number is 1305-563-6334. That's 1305-563-6334. If you're watching the YouTube version of the pod right now, the number is crawling across the bottom of the screen. Give that number a call. You leave the one off if you're in the continental United States. But of course, this is a worldwide podcast, so we had to add that one in there. But if you'd like to drop us a line on this topic or any other topics, we'd be happy to hear from you. Tell us what how you think the show's going. Tell us what you think we could improve. We don't mind what it is. Chaos is waiting for his 1-star review, so you can send that along. He'd be happy to receive it. Apparently, you only know you made it when you get a 1-star review, so still waiting. But yeah, drop us a line. Let us know your thoughts. If you're happy for us to play that in one of our future episodes, we will do so, and we will talk around the topic, and then you two can be involved. So that'd be great. Drop us a message and let us know.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess we can move on to the next segment.
In parallel.
And we're doing this segment without chaos because this is chaos segment.
Yeah.
But I want to take this opportunity to thank our YouTube subscribers. I guess since yesterday, we got a new subscriber. I want to thank Renee G for being our newest subscriber to our YouTube channel.
Thank you, Renee.
We really, really appreciate it. And like I was saying earlier, if you listen to a show, if you like our show, the best thing you could do to help us out is to subscribe. Just subscribe to our channel. We are so close to the 500 subscriber mark. And we really appreciate to get there with your help. And if you know people that will love our content, remember this content is, I have seen it described in our season 1 as the type of conversation that you have on your way to a Comic-Con with your friends, maybe in the car, or the type of conversations that started this show was me getting together with friends and making a sci-fi movie longer than it should be by pausing and talking about it. And that's what we do in this show. We pick a topic. This could be a movie, TV show, and we discuss our thoughts. And that way, we can watch the 1 hour, 2 hour movie without having to pause it, and we'll save all those comments for this show. But yeah, this is the kind of this is what we do, and this is what we enjoy, and we really appreciate if you know someone that would love our content. Then just send them our YouTube link and have them subscribe. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you in advance.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So,
do you know what's coming?
Oh, I do.
Do you know what's coming?
I do. I have the show notes in. Oh dear. So this week on Radio Cast, which is the live stream for the Alita Army, of course, if you're new to the show, the Alita Army is the fandom for Alita Battle Angel and the source manga Gumu. We had an episode 244 this week. Yes, we've been going for a few years now, and we will continue that show. When we get a green light, we'll turn from asking for a sequel to promoting the sequel and getting bums on seats when it shows up in the cinemas and making sure it makes $1 billion, because Alita is an awesome franchise and everybody should enjoy it if they like post-apocalyptic cyberpunk. It's right up your alley. So the topic this week was what would have happened if Jushigan had survived. So in the Motorball arc, Alita goes up against the champion of the Motorball circuit, Emperor Jushigan. He has made an appearance in the first movie, but haven't really seen a lot of him yet. And he's supposed to be fairly pivotal in the second movie, as we would understand the way the story goes. So we're looking forward to seeing him there. Yes, at the end of a challenge match, Alita challenges with a team of other Motorballs, challenges Emperor Jushigan because basically he's undefeated. So they challenge him, and Alita and he fight to a standstill, and he manages to beat her, but he dies in the process because his brain's dying. So the question was, if Jushigan had survived, what may have occurred? So there was all sorts of questions and answers and sort of alternate universe ideas about him forming a relationship with Alita because she came to really respect him. Things about them being friends and him ending up joining the group that goes up to Zalem when they finally get up there. All sorts of different options about where he might have ended up and how things may have changed. Like maybe Alita would have stuck with Motorball for longer because he was still there, still a challenge to be defeated. And she doesn't give up, she doesn't give in, she never surrenders, to borrow a line from Galaxy Quest. And so she'd be back at it, being that she never got to defeat him. She was actually pissed off that he died because she wanted to learn more from him, which is we find out later in a dream sequence, which was basically a trap called Ouroboros, where she gets stuck in this dream about possibilities that never happened. But yeah, we had a good discussion on that one. It was a lot of fun, and it's episode 244. You can find that on the Alita Army YouTube channel on, obviously, YouTube. So check that one out if you're an Alita Battle Angel fan.
Awesome. I think I got the topic of your next episode. Are you ready for this one?
Shock me.
What would have happened if Hugo had survived?
Oh God, no! we've already had that one because there's a couple of Hugo super fans in the Alita Army, and they hang out in the text chat every week on the live stream, and every time Hugo comes up, they're like, Hugo, and I'm like, oh, Hugo. So we don't see eye to eye on that one.
Just ask our very own Chaos; he'll tell you. He's very
about it. He does not like Hugo. No, I mean, I just like Hugo. He hates Hugo.
Yeah. There's
he's way down on that end of the scale.
There's a clear difference there.
Yeah,
oh, awesome. Okay, so I'm glad you guys had that episode. That's very, very good. we should let Chaos know that episode is out so he can watch it.
It was 100 or so episodes ago. That was way back.
Nice. Okay, so are we ready for this thing?
I think we should be, because this movie's been around for a decade now, pretty much.
There's one thing I don't understand, and I don't know if you agree with this.
I do. I don't. I know I do, because we had the same thing about last week's one. I think December is the month for why the hell didn't this movie do better?
Yeah, I mean, this was done by the was it the Wachowskis brothers?
Yeah. Well, no, they're the Wachowski sisters now.
Sisters now, yeah. So it said the Wachowskis instead of what we saw on Matrix, but the the movie is so good. I actually have a copy 3D DVD version of
I'm
this.
jelly. I want that.
It's so good. And I bought it because every time I watch it, I have so much fun. And before we go into, and I don't know if we have a plot for this, but before we go
We
into,
do. Of course we do.
I before we get into it, I was gonna say the vibe that I get every time I watch this, and I completely forgot until I rewatch it again, and I have rewatched this multiple times, standard and 3D. Um, I get the vibe of Dune in this thing, and I know that it pretty much ended, right? The story, so it is technically you don't have the need or the feeling like I have for so many other movies where I want or need a part two, because maybe they left it at a point where you have a lot of questions. So this movie is kind of like that, where it's kind of done. However, the world building within is so huge that I would have to, I would, I would enjoy more of it. Not necessarily in a, it doesn't, I mean, granted, if it's a movie, I would appreciate it, but I think it would be best in a TV format, um, anime, book, whatever it is, that explores the other stuff, because we're kind of left with some, I want to say, unanswered questions, like how the one of the things is the political structure, how that works, what organizations do we just briefly touched on in this film, how do they work, how do they interoperate with each other. uh, there's so many things that are underlaid, which is one of the things that I appreciate the most about this film, is the fact that you could watch it and get a sense of completion, because the things are there, and obviously for an overthinker like I am, they're at the forefront, but they're designed to be underlining the story. So you could watch it and not really miss those things. But if you are like me, and I'm assuming, Ray, I'm not sure. I'm gonna get your thoughts on that and see if you're of the same uh, thought as I am on this. If you are an overthinker, those will be there. So it would be one of those things that I really would appreciate more content on this. Um, and I mean, this deserves a series of 5, 6 books, if you ask me. And I know it's not. It doesn't. It did not came from a book. Well, at least I don't. Maybe I'm mistaken there, but I would really love a whole set of volumes on this story. So I went on that rant. uh,
Yeah. Don't let me get a word in edgeways, do you?
so what are you in the same boat as I am, thinking about this? I mean, like I said, if you watch this and you're not, like, let's say for example, you're not a hard sci-fi fan, you kind of like your soft sci-fi, um, you probably will miss all this stuff, and it's okay, because the I feel that the film was designed for that. But if you are like a hard sci-fi fan or someone that overthinks things, those things will be there, and now you have unanswered questions.
Can I have 10? This is supposed to be a conversation, not a diatribe, Robert. You got to let me get a word in edgeways. Okay, so a little bit of context. The Warshawskis, they were the Warshawskis' brother, but they transitioned, so they're the Warshawski sisters. Their notable works are Bound, the Matrix series. Used to be a trilogy. Now they just keep making more of them. V for Vendetta, a huge, like, that's in Chaos's top 5 movies ever. He's got the face mask that he wears during the pod on occasions. Speed Racer, another fantastic live action anime based IP. Cloud Atlas.
Yes.
Remember Cloud Atlas? Cloud Atlas is very interesting. And Sense8, which was on Netflix, which is also very good. So, I mean, the Wachowskis are known for doing interesting things. Now, you asked the question, I have the answer. What is the source material for Jupiter Ascending? It's actually a original intellectual property created by the Wachowskis, based off of, I say based off of, but inspired by a few sources, the Odyssey, the classic,
nice,
and the Wizard of Oz. So obviously those two IPs had influence on Jupiter Ascending. But you know, the thing you said, Dune vibes. You know what I say? Star Wars vibes.
That too. Oh yes, that too.
Do you know why I say Star Wars vibes? Because Star Wars is the Star Wars. I don't know what to call it. Super IP has been described very somewhat inaccurately as the story of how the Skywalker family screwed up the galaxy.
Yeah.
even down to Palpatine's renaming themselves Skywalkers. So you know, everyone wants to be a Skywalker, wants to be linked to that family that screwed up the galaxy.
Oh, I am Space Robert Skywalker. There you go. So you know, you put space in
surprise there.
So.
But basically, when I say that it reminds me of Star Wars, it's because the Abraxas family have been hanging around for like 100,000 years or more, just basically screwing up the galaxy for everybody else.
Yeah.
Very, very Skywalker-esque, I got to say. I mean, obviously, a much larger timescale. And when you're talking about the same people being around for 91 millennia, you kind of think, you know, that's very Dune-esque in its depth of field of effect and history and world building. So yeah, that's the Dune vibe, the Star Wars vibe, but the Wachowskis have said that, and Lana particularly, because this was Lana's love child, basically. Lana's very, one of her favorite books is the Odyssey, and also the Wizard of Oz, which she contrasts with the Odyssey. So they're sort of either ends of the same spectrum, which is the spectrum that she wrote Jupiter Ascending on. Now, I think probably at this point we should probably go through the plot, and then we can talk about the effects of the plot and how us deep thinkers kind of interact with that said plot. So we'll give the plot a spin. Earth and countless other planets were established by a family of transhuman and alien royalty to harvest the resulting organisms to produce a youth serum for the elites on other planets. And when they say organisms, they mean people. So basically, Regenix, which is the trade name of the product that this Abraxas family makes, is made from people, which is basically Soylent Green. But
I was going to say that.
Soylent Green is Regenix, which is people.
So in this movie, we are cattle.
Yeah. Specifically us down on Earth. After death of the matriarch of the House Abraxas, the most powerful of the alien dynasties, her children, Balaam, Kalik, and Titus, quarrel over the inheritance. Balaam inherits control of the Abraxas business empire. Kalian inherits the planet Ceres, and Titus spends his inheritance on a lavish spaceship. None are named sovereign of Abraxas. Instead, they are styled first, second, and third primary. Jupiter Jones, she's the main character, narrates that her father, Maximilian, met her mother, Alexa, in St. Petersburg, Russia. After Maximilian is killed in a robbery, Alexia names their daughter Jupiter after his favorite planet, and they move to Chicago to live with Alexia's family. And when you say move, they're basically illegal aliens. Years later, Jupiter makes a modest living as a housekeeper to her wealthy neighbors. She cleans toilets for them. Wanting to buy a telescope, she agrees to sell her egg cells and uses her friend Catherine's name as a pseudonym. At Catherine's house, the women are attacked by extraterrestrials called keepers, basically your greys, I think they call them.
The greys.
Properties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jupiter photographs them, but they erase both women's memories of the incident. Jupiter finds the strange photograph on her phone while waiting for an egg at an egg donation clinic, but cannot recall anything about it. During the procedure, the doctors and nurses are revealed to be keepers sent to kill her. Friendly folk, aren't they? But she is saved by Cain Wise, a former soldier sent by Titus to bring her to him. As Cain and Jupiter...
He stepped it up.
Yeah, he did.
From the movie Step Up.
Oh, right. As Cain and Jupiter... I thought you were talking about the anti-gravity boots. A step up.
Well, it's a duality there. So
it very much is. As Cain and Jupiter flee, their spaceship is destroyed by a squad of keepers. Cain fends off the attack, kills the keepers, and hijacks one of their vehicles while protecting Jupiter. Cain realizes that Jupiter must be of great significance to Titus and Balaam, who are revealed to have sent the keepers to Earth to capture her. Cain takes Jupiter to a hideout of Stinger Apini, another former soldier living in exile on Earth. After learning she can control the bees at Stinger's residence, Jupiter discovers that she is galactic royalty. Now, how they work that out is her genetic code matches that of the recently deceased matriarch of the Abraxas family. They're corporate royalty, I would say.
The Moadi.
Yeah, basically. Stinger agrees to help Jupiter, but she is captured by Balaam's hunters and bribed by Kalik to bring Jupiter to Alcazar on Ceres. There, Kalik explains that Jupiter is genetically identical to the house of Abraxas' long-dead matriarch, and therefore she is the Earth's rightful owner. How can one person own an entire planet? Apparently can. Supported by Captain Dominique Singh of the Intergalactic Police Force, the Aegis, as they're called. Now, Captain Dominica Singh is actually the character that I was playing in the quote at the beginning. She's pretty cool. I like her. Cain retrieves Jupiter from Kalik and takes her to the intergalactic capital planet Horus to claim her inheritance as sovereign of Abraxas. Once claimed, Jupiter would gain control of Abraxas Industries and displace Balaam as title holder of Earth, because Balaam is threatening to harvest Earth. Basically, what they do is they seed planets with human DNA, and then they grow up into peoples, and the peoples multiply until they get to a point where they can no longer be supported by the ecosystem of that planet, we are the virus, and then they get harvested. And it takes 100 people to make one of these little containers of Regenex, which the Abraxas.
How many ounces would you guess? Because it's never implied. Would you
Probably
say
Alita.
a liter? Okay.
Probably Alita. Not Alita, a liter. Excuse my Australian accent. In another attempt to lure Jupiter to him, Baleen sends Gregan to kidnap her family. Gregan's like what do they call him? Dragonoid.
Yeah.
Basically a little dragon. They're pretty cool. I like the Dragonoids.
The previous inhabitants of Earth, right?
Yeah, basically. On the way back to Earth, well, actually, yeah, the Saurinoids. He's a Saurinoid. You're right. I never realized.
Yeah, the dinosaurs never went extinct. You know, that's what happened.
Well, not all of them, but a lot of them did. On the way back to Earth, Titus's henchmen capture Jupiter and detain Cain as punishment for not bringing her to him. Titus reveals to Cain his plan to marry Jupiter, kill her, and claim Earth. Titus then throws Cain into the void of space and attempts to seduce Jupiter, declaring his intention to dismantle the youth serum trade, for which Earth is the next intended source. Earth actually has a much larger human holding capacity than most planets out there. So that's why it's so very valuable. Cain survives being spaced, thankfully, because he's rather important to the rest of the plot, and returns with Stinger to save Jupiter at the altar before she gets married. Jupiter asks to return home, but learns that her family have been taken hostage by Baleen and are being taken to the red spot on Jupiter, because that's where I'd take them.
Jupiter. Yeah, why not?
Jupiter. So Jupiter has to go to Jupiter.
Exactly. And I wonder, you know, are they looking at us right now from Jupiter? You know, there's that big eye.
Probably. Yeah.
The big
maybe they're saying, hey, we better harvest that plant before it goes blows itself up. Wouldn't want to lose your entire cash crop. At his refinery inside the Great Red Spot, Baleen demands Earth in exchange for Jupiter's family. Realizing that Baleen cannot harvest Earth without her permission, Jupiter refuses. Cain infiltrates the refinery and damages its gravity hull, causing the refinery to begin collapsing. Always fun. Very Poseidon adventure-y. While the occupants evacuate the refinery, Singh's ship moves in and rescues Jupiter's family. Jupiter survives the collapsing structures, only to land at the feet of Baleen, who tries to kill her again. Because he killed his mother, who was the previous genetic incarnation of Jupiter. She fights him off before Baleen falls to his death. Cain saves her as the refinery is in its final stages of collapse. Singh opens a portal to Earth and prepares to evacuate, potentially leaving Cain and Jupiter behind. Oh no. However, she is relieved that they have survived and crossed the portal along with Singh's ship. Jupiter's family is returned home with no memory of their disappearance. So very Men in Black. While Jupiter secretly retains ownership of the Earth. Yeah, bitches, I own this whole planet.
Nice. So
Cain's rank in the Legion is restored, and he and Jupiter begin a relationship. They have a sky date at the top of the. Now it's in Chicago. What's the name of the building? Damn it! The biggest building in Chicago.
I completely.
Yeah, I've gone blank.
Yeah, me too.
Help me, internet.
So if you live in Chicago, just be aware the another planet lives there. So maybe you should go get an autograph from us. What do you think?
Yep, definitely. I can't even spell Chicago. Help me out here. Willis Tower. Sears Tower. Does that sound right?
I think so.
Yeah, it's the Sears Tower.
Yes. Yes. Willis.
It's the name was changed. It's now the Willis Tower, but it was the Sears Tower. So people will know it by both names, maybe, or one or the other. But yeah, so they're hanging out on top of the Sears Tower because they can. He got his wings back because they've been clipped. But he got his wings back, and she was borrowing his anti-grav boots, which we'll get to because they're cool. But yeah, and to answer your question after getting through the entire plot, no, I do not understand. I really like this movie. I enjoy it every single time I watch it. It's the full package. It's got great orchestral soundtrack. It's got action scenes. It's got really deep world building. It's got a whole bunch of little things. And of course, I just found out a new one about what did you say before? The Sauronoids. The Dragonoids are actually the remainder of the dinosaurs.
Yeah, they didn't get extinct. They just left the planet.
And I thought 02 was like the last of the dinosaurs, but I was wrong. From Darling in the Franxx.
Oh yeah. Now, I will have to say this. I'm going to go on record by saying this.
Mhm.
I have only one regret about this movie. And the one regret that I have is that I never watched this on the theaters. And it would have been a tremendous experience because this is an epic movie.
I did.
Yeah. And I bet
I
you have-
actually walked into it on spec because I was like, "Oh, a sci-fi! I'll go see that this afternoon." I
so
didn't know what it was about.
it's such an epic movie that I think the only what I will have to end up doing would be to get my projector out and make it a movie night and see. But the experience is gone, you know. And this would have been a perfect movie. Usually, epic movies like this deserve a theater watch, and that's the one regret that I have is that I unless they bring it back, like sometimes they do, I'm never gonna get that. So that's the one regret that I have about this film.
There are some theaters. I know that there's some in Texas at the very least because friends of mine have been planning to do it with Alita Battle Angel. But you can actually bring along your DVD or your Blu-ray and play that in the cinema. And it's a private showing. It's not open to the public, and you can basically it costs hundreds of dollars to rent out a cinema.
Yeah.
But you can like drag all your friends along.
Yeah, I gotta see if there's anything like that. But then again, you have to in order to make it feasible, you have to get a nice group of people that you can like split the cost.
Yeah.
Because it is incredibly expensive. But I guess we're in the part of the show where we ask that first question. If you're new to the show, the first question is, how old were you when you watched this for the first time, and what was your very first impression? Um, I maybe I should go first since I didn't watch it at the theaters, or you want to
Sure.
go first? Okay.
No, you go first.
Um, like I said, I missed it in the theaters. Not sure why. Maybe I wasn't aware. Maybe it's in part due to advertising. Maybe that is the reason why it didn't do as well as I thought this movie should be doing. But for some reason, I did not realize this was a thing until it was announced to release on video release. I want to say maybe I don't know why I want to say like the beginning of 2016. Um, I can't remember exactly, but let's say it was the beginning of the 2016 when I watched it for the first time. I was in complete awe, and I remember cursing myself for not knowing this was a thing because the first thing that I realized when I watched this for the first time is how much of an epic film it was, and how good it would have been to know that it was in the theaters and get the opportunity to watch it there. That's the reason why I said that's the one regret that I had, because that was the first thing that came to mind when I watched this for the very, very first time. Now, I wasn't prepared for what I was about to watch. And in part, that leads me to question the question that we both had, and we have repeated in this episode multiple times, as to why this film didn't do as good as it should have. Which I think maybe in part is advertising. But the world building, the sound effects, the visual effects, um, the special effects, I mean the way that the story works together, in part, and I don't know if you realize this, but they kind of grab some things that are told about, I want to say conspiracy, but not. It's technically not. It's more like what is believed now about alien adoptions, and they grab all those pseudo um, mysterious content, and they make it fit into the story to, in a way, have this movie explain the unexplainable, and in doing so, I think makes it more of a believable story, because it's at the fringe of what's normally. Let me explain. Uh, we get to see the Grays, and it is so curious to me the very first time that I saw it, because they look exactly like the descriptions that people have mentioned the Grays to look like, from either alien adoptions or your famous story of Area 51. Another thing that really caught my attention is how they get into their ships. Again, this is how, if you watch, for example, the movie Fire in the Sky, or any of the stories about how aliens adopt people, it's
Or Day to Day when they're sucking the cow up.
exactly, it's a beam of light, and you're like, you get y- you get transported within that beam of light all the way out to the space.
It's basically gravity manipulation. They do a lot with gravity manipulation, and it's just gravity reversal. So rather than being pulled down, you get pulled up.
And again, CERN, if you're listening, chop chop, we need. You're already working with that dark matter. We need anti-gravity. So yeah, just check.
Yes.
But going back to this, um, we have that. We have so many things that are in this film, and I think by including it in the film, it makes it more relatable and more believable to the subconscious mind when you watch it.
It's an overthinker's paradise.
Mhm, exactly. And I don't know, did you notice all those things, right? How they import.
Oh, let me
Oh,
quote you one. They when Jupiter gets abducted from that farmhouse, and they're running through the cornfield, and then the stealth ship appears, and they go up in the ship, and the ship takes off, and its thruster patterns produce a what do they call them?
the crop circle.
Crop circle. Yeah, the thruster patterns produce a crop circle, and the ship, they do this shot where the ship is taking off up into the sky, and the ground sort of falling backwards behind it, and you see the crop circle, and you go, that's a crop circle. And nothing is said about it. Nothing
No.
is said about it. It's just like, oh, so that's how they make that. It's actually thruster wash from their spaceships.
So I remember very first impression how I thought how clever it was, and how enjoyable Like, the action scenes on this film are tremendous. So if you're an action fan, you don't need to be a sci-fi fan to really enjoy this film. I want to say that. And I have to applaud films that do this. Films that can do multiple genres and do it in a way that they are, I want to say, siloed, because I can't find a better word for it, to where if you are a sci-fi fan and maybe hates, I mean, if you are an action fan and maybe hate sci-fi, you will enjoy this film. If you're a sci-fi fan and maybe don't like, action films, you're gonna love this film. It is basically designed in a way that is although it's all together, it could be segregated to the like of the person who's watching the film. I don't know if you agree with this, Ray, or if you noticed this. I actually noticed this from the very first time. The very first time that I watched this film is when I noticed this. How it's like, and the only reason why I'm saying this is because I was watching it at the time with my brother, who he doesn't quite like sci-fi. Yes, I know it's a travesty. But he loves action films, and he enjoyed this film. He really did. And so that's the
Oh, there's
reason.
no shortage of action in this sucker.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So do you realize this, or I mean, not necessarily?
I don't know. I mean, I always think that a good sci-fi movie needs to cross genres
Yes,
because sci-fi in itself isn't like it isn't its own thing. It's a future projection of what we're dealing with now. Star Trek was a perfect example. The Star Trek movies were all future projections of issues that were happening at the time the movie was made.
yeah,
All of them. And basically, sci-fi is a mirror telling us what's going on at the moment, and that these sorts of things that we're dealing with now aren't one and done. They're not one-off things. They're things that humanity is going to be struggling with well into the future, and just in a different time with a different level of technology. So maybe it's easier to fix them then because they've got better technology, but it's just sort of, it's kind of like the Joker in the Royal Court back in the Middle Ages. The Harlequin or the Joker, or what you want to call them. They were the only person in the court that was allowed to speak the truth and not have their head chopped off, because they were presenting it in a different format. But everybody knew what they were talking about, but it was considered comedy, and therefore it could be talked about without causing offense to the king. And it's a well documented sort of situation within royal courts in Europe, that was one of the only ways that these topics could be brought up, so people were thinking about them without the king taking offense and people losing their heads. And that's what the Joker was there for in the court.
yeah,
And sci-fi is kind of like the same, not in that sci-fi can tell you a story about what's going on in your world right now, but presented in a way that's not offensive, because it doesn't feel like it's in your face. It's not a documentary. It's a story which happens to have real world connotations.
yeah.
And I think the real world connotation in Jupiter Ascending is capitalism gone mad.
Yes, definitely.
And the whole thing with Regenex and human beings being a cash crop is sort of saying that, companies these days treat humans as a resource. It's why it's called human resources, and it's a renewable resource, so they can just burn through them and then discard them. And having experienced that for myself, I agree that that's the way big corporations treat people. and it's disgusting. They don't treat people as people. They treat people as their position, and that's how they get away with mistreating them. And I mean, I can't complain about my treatment as a worker, but my value to companies that I've worked for as a worker has been, you're completely replaceable. We don't really give a crap about you. Don't care if you've given us 2 decades of your life. The moment that the situation changes, you're out in your ass. But and you look at places like Japan, where with black companies that have mandatory unpaid overtime, and people working through their holidays. And I read recently that there are some companies that charge the worker if the worker is sick.
Wow.
They don't give them sick leave. The worker has to pay the company for the time that they missed working. Shit like that. Yeah. So I mean, it's a continuum, and up on one end with a very few number of companies that treat people like people and value them, and then get the most out of them because the people feel valued and get treated nicely. And then there's black companies in Japan which do that sort of shit. It's a continuum. Your workplace, your company will land somewhere on there. Wow. But capitalism gone mad and treating people like a renewable resource. That I think that's what Jupiter Ascending's deep topics are covering.
So I think we kind of skipped you somewhat.
I'm getting used to it. I mean, as soon as I picked this movie and you started waxing lyrical about how much you liked it, I went, yeah, I'm taking a back seat in this one. That's okay. I can deal.
So I'm really curious because you got the nice opportunity to watch this film at the theaters.
I did.
So I guess I wanted to ask, redirect the question to you. Sure. We already know it was 2015, the first time you watched it. But what was the first impression that you had? And I guess I want to take it a little step up, no pun intended, by asking the experience difference between, which I already have a clue what the answer will be, between watching it at the theaters for such an epic film like this versus how we watched it today.
Well, obviously it was bigger, but I mean, this show did not. It did not take a back seat to like Star Wars and all those sort of big budget spacey things for special effects. You can kind of tell when a production company cheaps out on one of the facets of a sci-fi movie, like the sets are a bit meh, or the CGI or the ship designs are a bit, and they're just a bit on the generic side. No, all the spaceship designs and the tech and everything in this movie was well thought out, heavily thought out. It had huge amounts of backstory. The world building was fantastic. The 3 primaries of the Abraxas family that were all tussling over the inheritance from the matriarch of the Abraxas family. It was right up there with sort of the Dune machinations, with the depth of it and how they were all manipulating and lying and scheming and going on. It was cool. It really felt grounded in the work that the Wachowskis put into the designs, the backstories, the pacing of the movie. I couldn't fault any of that. It had a great soundtrack, great Foley. The audio was booming and really had you in the moment. And even the practical effects were really good. And yeah, look, there was a few cliche bits. I think some people might have not appreciated the toilet cleaning. It's just one of those things that, like, a certain percentage of society just goes, ew. I mean, we all know the toilet needs to be cleaned, but nobody wants to think about doing it. But, having it on the big screen kind of is a bit off-putting for some people, I think.
Yeah.
My first wife never cleaned a toilet in her life. She refused to. So, that those members of society wouldn't appreciate it. But yeah, so the only part of this movie that I thought was a little bit of a letdown was perhaps the way they sort of pitched the ending, and some of the acting performances were a bit strained. Now, there's a good reason for that. This is a quote from Channing Tatum, who played Kane Wise, who was basically the love interest. Jupiter Ascending was a nightmare from the jump. It was a sideways movie. All of us were there for 7 months, busting our hump. It was just tough.
Oh, wow.
Now, when a production gets described by like that by one of the major stars, you can tell that it was hard yakka. It was hard going. So why some of the acting performances might have been strained was probably because things were getting a bit tough on set, and it was just hard work. And just like when you're at your best when you're having fun, and you give your best performance, you smile more, you smile more naturally, all that sort of thing. When you're doing it hard, it shows, even when you're trying not to let it show. So you can kind of tell from some of the scenes in this movie and some of the acting performances that there's strain in the acting performance, which would reflect the strain on set.
I did not know that.
So there you go. Yeah, it just this vibe from some of the acting performances that it was like hard work. It wasn't flowing naturally. The smiles were a little bit forced, these sorts of things. So yeah, I thought that kind of let the movie down a little bit, just in as much as it felt a little bit strained, which probably wasn't the intent. It was just the effect of the situation.
Wow.
But other than that, I can't fault the movie at all. I thought it was really well done, and kind of it's a bit of a head scratcher. I mean, the original 3 Star Wars movies were almost perfect in what they presented and how they presented it, but other outings in the franchise have had their problems, and they still did well because it's Star Wars. But I mean, when the first outing of a new IP is sort of pushing shit uphill in production, and it leaks out into the performances, then that can affect the response. And I think that might have had something.
Do you remember seeing advertising for this film when it went to theaters?
No, I don't. And I wanted to actually mention that because the only reason I saw this in the cinema was that I happened to be in a cinema in 2015 with some free time, and I went, oh, a sci-fi movie. I'll go see that just on spec. This was pre Alita Battle Angel. So I was still going to the cinemas reasonably regularly. I didn't go to the cinema for 4 years during COVID, so I was missing out there. But yeah, I was a reasonably good cinema goer, mostly for sci-fi movies back in the day. And this was probably one of the last ones before Alita Battle Angel that I sort of just jumped on when I saw the poster. The poster was the only thing that got me into this movie. I never saw ads for it in the trailers before other movies. I never saw anything about it on TV. Didn't pop up on YouTube or anywhere else on the internet as an advertisement. I don't know what they spent their advertising money on, but none of it got here.
Well,
so I was just lucky.
The reason why I was asking is because I don't remember seeing any either. and I think that might be the reason why the movie didn't do as good as it should have. Because maybe most of the people did not know. It's kind of like me. I wish I would have seen it in the theaters, but I never knew it was out on the theaters. The only advertising I ever saw was the previews that you get to see online. It's like, oh, it's a new sci-fi movie. Oh, the guy from Step Up is in there. Interesting, and that's how I was aware of and watched it at home. But and then was really surprised as to like how did I not know that this film was in the theaters? And I don't know. It seems like you might agree that this might be part of why the film didn't do as good.
Well, from what I've been reading of the release of the movie, it was delayed a couple of times. It was originally set to be released on the 25th of July 2014, but was later moved to July 18th of July 2014. On June 3rd, 2014, the film's release was delayed till February 6th, 2015. So it got delayed for 6 months due to poor test screenings that April, and to give additional time needed to complete over 2,000 special effects shots, which ended up ballooning the final budget from 130 million to 210 million.
Wow.
So that was $80 million more in special effects. So I suspect that it looked a bit dog's breakfasty in these sci-fi shots, and everybody went, that looks like crap. So they redid them.
Another thing that I notice in research only, after I watched the film, and for all of you out there who are not familiar, there's some film, we watched the film, or we tried to watch the film close to the recording time. I happened to watch this film. I mean, I watched this film multiple times, but I watched this film today. And then after the film is over, we get on our Notion board and we start to make annotations. That's pretty much when I do kind of like my research about the film. And there's something that caught my attention, and I'm kind of wondering if you noticed, because I surely did not. And I watched this film a lot. So I'm pretty much going to rewatch this after our recording to see if I see it, because I don't remember seeing it at all. But when they're arriving at the planet Ors, the Station 5 from 2001 Space Odyssey can be seen in the distance among the spaceships. And I know that scene in particular, I remember that scene, is very chaotic.
It is.
Because there's a lot of things going on. So I am really curious now how that little piece of Easter egg got included there. But yeah, the ship, the station from 2001 Space Odyssey could be seen.
They snuck it in.
They snuck it in. Did you knew this or seen this, or were you aware of this? It's like,
well, I mean, there's only so many different designs for spaceships out there, and then some start overlapping and looking familiar. Whether or not they just straight up ripped off Gateway Station from 2001: A Space Odyssey, or they just made a ship that looked a bit like it to pay homage, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look myself. But there was a lot of stuff going on in that scene. You probably have to freeze frame it to see it, I suspect.
I
was just going to say that that particular, I guess, segment of the movie, collection of scenes where they were at Ors, was very much it was humor based on, and I say the movie is a warning about rampant capitalism, but that particular section is sort of a warning about rampant bureaucracy. And the only way they managed to get out of the infinite loop of being sent to different departments is by bribing somebody. And basically, I suspect that that's the whole point. You get sent from one department to another department to another department, and they're all named things are named similarly, so you get to the wrong place. And it's all to wind you up and stress you out until you just pay to get the fuck out of there. That is deliberate. And it is the Harlequin, the Joker. It's a joke about rampant bureaucracy because rampant bureaucracy is that bad. It's funny because it's true.
What is it that Jupiter said? I'm never going to complain about the DMB ever again.
Yes, that was the joke. That was the punchline for the whole scene.
Nice. Another point that I want to call out from my research of this film that I find really interesting, and you probably might not know this, but I'm curious to see if you find that as interesting as I did. On the date of the wide release of this film, this researcher calls it February 6th, 2015. The planet Jupiter was in its opposition. If you don't know what that means, it means that is as its closest point to Earth, and the sun was fully illuminating it. So I find it a little poetic justice there that a movie, Jupiter Ascending, was released when Jupiter is ascending on on the night sky. It could have been visible, and not necessarily with naked eye, but it was kind of like a full moon, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Did you find that as well? I find it exciting because I love science and I love planets and stuff like that, and it's just curiosity to me that it was at the same time. But yeah, there's a couple of things that I was reading about that it was interesting about this film. So now, going back to the original question that I was going to ask you, because us humans, when we lack information, our minds will make things up to try to figure it. And that's pretty much how our brain works, right? And one example is our vision is backwards. So our brain kind of learns how to deal with the information we got. Also, we have vision because is the us receiving the light bouncing back from the object. So when there is lack of light or very little light, we don't have as much information receiving, we're not receiving as much information as we were if there was a lot more light. So our brain is funny that way because it actually makes up for the difference. And that's how we could see, like when you turn all the lights off, you wait a second, and our brain kind of does its magic where you can pretty much walk around and hopefully don't bump your toe in the furniture. So the reason why I'm saying all this is because I didn't see this in the theaters, so I wish I would, and I can only make up what the experience would be like. And I guess my question to you is, did you have that experience that I envisioned was like when you watched this film? Or was it something all different, completely different altogether?
I mean, it did land a lot like like I've seen Star Wars in the cinema. I've seen Alien. I've seen. I'm trying to stick to spacey sort of blockbusters. Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica. I've seen in this. Well, it wasn't the cinema. It was a driving. Similar sort of effect. You know, big screen. Audio wasn't great. You know, from the one little speaker you get to hang off your window, but certainly, you know, the big screen effect was cool. That's a whole nother story. My father took me to it, and he was bored off his nut. He's like, "Where's the cowboys and Indians?" I'm like, "Dad, not every movie's a fucking western." But yeah, so I mean, he went and saw it with me because Lorne Green was in it, because he knew Lorne Green from Bonanza.
Yeah.
That was the only reason he took me.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That was the upshot. But no, it landed like a big budget. Well, it was a big budget, but it landed like a big budget sci-fi. I mean, I saw Serenity on the big screen in a special screening. I saw Lost in Space, the movie, on the big screen. That was cool.
Yeah.
And the absolutely coolest part about that was the closing credits, where they did the hip hop version of the Lost in Space song. That was really cool. But yeah, I mean, I've seen lots of things. Not really super spacey, but Dark City I saw at the cinema. But yeah, you know, blockbuster spacey sci-fi at the cinema is awesome. And it really did land, you know, as sort of like a big drama, hard sci-fi epic. And I really thought that it would have got sequels. I thought there was room for more storytelling there. I mean, they sort of dealt with the Abraxas family, but there's a whole bunch of other families, and there could be other threats to Earth. I really thought, as a story, she should have at least, you know, like, I'm the owner of the Earth. Surely I can get some like gems or gold or something to turn into cash and improve my family's situation a little bit. Because she's stupid rich now. But yeah, other than that, I didn't have too many problems with the plot. So yeah, I thought it landed really well. I really enjoyed it when I saw it at the cinema. And admittedly, it wasn't a very full cinema. It was a matinee on a Saturday afternoon. And I was by myself, so you know, I didn't have anybody there to chat about it with. But I really found like it was a good solid sci-fi outing. And I would have thought there would have been more. I thought it would have done better.
Yeah. And I agree with you on that point, because I mean, she is part of that family. She went through that that whole ordeal to like reclaiming her status. She's now the owner. I mean, the main so-called bad guy in this film died, right?
Yeah.
But she's still a member of that family. There's two. The I don't know if I should say, she still has that son and that daughter, um, which sounds really weird saying it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in addition to that, you have the entire galaxy. Now they know, you know, obviously they know she is now the new ruler. There's a big demand for that planet. And that's the reason why they were doing the things that we're doing right now and trying to take ownership of that. So the greed normally will have to show. Now this person has the planet that everybody wants. what can I do to get that planet? What can I do to her? So there's a lot of story that could be explored, and that's the reason why at the beginning of this episode I mentioned maybe the best place to explore the story would be a, I don't know, mini series where they're like an hour long episodes, or maybe a TV series.
Or a mini series.
Yeah, or hey, I would enjoy a series of books on this, because
Mhm.
I feel I have the same um it has the same aesthetics as Dune. Okay, so you're showing us something. Oh, yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
I'll see if I can zoom. Hang on, here we go. Here we go.
Nice.
So there is Gateway Station from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
And hopefully Gateway Station after the Falcon what is it, Falcon Heavy, or no, the Starship gets built.
Yeah.
Then we'll have another Gateway Station. But yeah, you see, for all of you out there who are actually watching our YouTube, and just remember, subscribe. If you're listening to our pod, just wait a little longer. About a month from the date that this gets released, it's going to get released on YouTube. You could see our screen share right now. There is a station, um, and if you could see, it is a very busy scene. So it is very understandable why I missed it with the multiple rewatches that I've done on this film.
Well, you've got this huge central station, which is really funky. And then you've got this over here, the basically halo around the planet,
Yeah.
orbital ring structure. And it's so big that there's a moon inside the orbital ring. It's like, holy shit, that's huge.
Would you say that marks a civilization type 1?
Oh, easily.
I don't think they're quite 2, but definitely 1. They might be on their way, though.
Yeah.
They might be well on their way to 2.
No, they're too busy trying to be immortals to up their technology game.
But yeah, this scene is one of the coolest scenes I've seen. Very busy, but very cool. Awesome. So
Actually,
remember,
you know what else this movie reminds me of?
Mhm.
It reminds me of Fifth Element.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I never thought of that way, but yes, it does remind me a little of that. There was another message that I think this film touches. And we could see this from the very beginning when we see Jupiter cleaning the bathrooms, you know, being hurried to finish a room, going back home, having difficulties waking up, and having her mom and I guess aunt tell, Jupiter, wake up. And
4:45 a.m. is a rude time of day to wake up. I'm telling you.
oh, yes. Oh, yes. I wouldn't do it. I know that for a fact.
Although the cicadas have been at it for 45 minutes by that stage down here at the moment.
Yeah. So we see this cycle that is almost to the point of being depressing.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of each cycle, we kind of see Jupiter say, I hate my life.
Just
And
wait, Jupiter, it gets worse.
so there's a message, because as we move forward through this film, we find out that she is part of the family that owns the planet, and keep on fast forwarding through this movie, and we see her as being the owner of the planet. So with all the stuff that's going on, it almost feels like Games of Thrones in that family. How everybody's going after each other's throats.
Yeah.
The oldest son killed their own mother. for the right to have the planet. And we see all that. And after, towards the end, when she gets back to Earth, finally, she is the owner of the Earth. She is now, she's a member of the family. She's super rich. And she chooses to continue her whole life in cleaning toilets. It's, I guess the message that I'm trying to say this film has is that, we complain about our current status, our current position, and things could be worse. And the way that they placed it in this film, which I find very poetic, is how, for example, people that don't have the means, they always envision that if they would become billionaires, if they would become people with money, then their situation would change. And this is what happened to Jupiter was beyond that.
Oh yeah.
It's beyond being, a multimillionaire. This is the absolute power, being the owner of the entire planet. And
Well, it's not just that she owns Earth. I mean, the humanity on Earth is not aware that there's a wider human diaspora out there. We're kept in the dark, and we're kept in the dark deliberately. You look at what happened in Chicago when they had that big battle, and there's burning buildings, and the top of church towers have been destroyed, and there's like been aliens chasing people through the streets and over the waterways in spaceships, and like every little kid, like all the sci-fi nuts like us, you dream of seeing something like that. You'd be like, wow. There must have been hundreds, maybe even 1,000 or more people who saw that happen. And yet by the next morning everything's repaired and it's like it never happened, and the majority of the people have had their memories erased, so they just don't know what happened during that time period. And Channing Tatum's character, Kane Weiss, is talking to Jupiter about it, and she's like, but hundreds, maybe thousands of people saw that happen. How are they going to keep it quiet? It's like, well, they're going to erase the memory of the majority of those people, and the few that slip through the cracks aren't going to be believed anyway. They're going to be the nutballs.
Yeah.
You're going to be the street people who's, I saw aliens last night. They were chasing each other. Yeah, sure, buddy. Yeah. We believe. No, go back under the causeway. You're a nutter. That's not real. That never happened. Nobody else remembers it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you were talking about how they slip things into the dialogue and the plot of this movie, which tied it to all the paranormal sightings and UFO sightings and crop circles, and all those things are there. And that's what makes it believable, because they've tied it to these things, and they've tied it in a way that's not, hey, look at this. It's, oh yeah, that's just like that. Like that's just how it works. That's the way it always happens. It's a very grounded movie in its own lore, and that's something the Wachowskis really do well, and that's what made the original Matrix movie such a great movie. And the sort of the upshot of that is that all the technology that the aliens are using, there's none of that sort of, they did it a little bit in Star Trek, and they've done it in a lot of early sci-fi movies. It's like, hey, look at all this cool sci-fi shit we thought up. It's that focus on it. Like if you think about the scene in Star Trek The Motion Picture where they spend like 5 minutes just cruising around Enterprise going, hey, look at our awesome SFX Enterprise. And, back in the day, that was cool because it had never been seen before. But the way they presented the I'll call it Abraxian technology, the uplifted human technology from beyond Earth, and how they all used it naturally. They never had a second thought about it. I think the only time they made reference to their own technology was in those scenes on was it Orax, the capital planet, where she had to go to deal with all the bureaucracy. The android that was taking them around, that was getting more and more flustered because he couldn't get anything done. When he went to something receivables, and he was supposed to go to the opposite one, and there was an android of the same model there, but it was being really snarky to him, and he was like sort of looking at it funny, like, this is me, but it's not me, and it's being an asshole. that was the big joke. But that was about the only time they nodded to their own technological prowess. But any other time in the movie, it was just business as usual. It was just, that's the way it is. Even to referencing things that then came up later on. Like when Stinger was incarcerated on the Aegis ship, and Wise came to get him out. He's like, this guy sold you out. And he said, well, do you know anybody else who can fight their way through a wall of warhammers? I was like, no. Okay, well then I'll take him. And then what did they have to fight their way through about 3 scenes later? A wall of warhammers. So they sort of, everything's just normal. It's in the conversation. The technology's just there, and then they roll it out, and that scene where they had to fight through the warhammer drones, that was just fucking monstrous. And it was cool. I mean, there was so much going on in that scene too, just like the fight over the river in Chicago was going so bonkers that you could hardly keep track of it. And you know, it's the frenetic pace of this is the sci-fi future off outside Earth, where everything is like hundreds of thousand years more advanced than what we have, and it's crazy. And dealing with it just like blows your mind. But these people's every day.
Yeah.
And that's the way they approached it. And I thought that was really smart writing. And to a lesser extent, really smart acting, in that they were told, this is just Tuesday. Just take it like Tuesday. Don't get excited. Don't get amazed. Just take it like Tuesday. So, and they did.
It helps sell it, because that's what would really happen if you have a civilization that has many millennia of using X technology. It is just like I said, it's another Tuesday. So when you see them this from the perspective of a human, someone that's not seen this before, this is completely magic to them.
You mean an earthling? They were all humans,
a
greater or lesser extent.
A virus from Earth, yes.
Well, we were actually seeded as a virus from outer space.
Yeah, there you go.
And they had to wipe the dinosaurs out first so that we could proliferate. But they kept a few as curios.
Yeah, because, but yeah, it helps sell it, because that's how it would look from our perspective, seeing something or seeing someone, using their own technology like that. This is kind of like what would happen if we are transporting a human from the past, let's say from someone, say from the year 1600 into 2024. This is the perspective that they will see us using our technology today. And is very believable and helps sell the story. But yeah, it's a perspective that I didn't really thought of until you mentioned it, right? But it helps. sells the story in a very subtle way, because it's all done without using extra words. It's just the way that it's done, and our brain is able to process it.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. This movie was great storytelling. Besides those couple of tiny little things that maybe took a little bit of the shine off it, I thought the storytelling was really solid.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know what the original CGI was before they did the do up, the glow up of the CGI that cost $80 million. But I mean, the ships look fantastic. All their space stations and orbital rings and everything on the major planets look fantastic. I couldn't really fault it. It looked like, top tier sci-fi.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they all had like implants and various other little bits of technology that they all just wore, and nothing was like focused on or given a spotlight as being, oh wow, look at this. It was all just Tuesday. And that's what made it work.
It's low-key cyberpunk if you think about it. Very
it
low.
was totally.
And it's something that, again, your perspective, because I watched this film so many times, and I like to say that maybe I took that for granted, but now that you mention it, it's very low-key cyberpunk. And in the way that they just another Tuesday, you have the implants, it's just the norm.
Well, Wise got his wings back because the people who are in is it the Legion? I can't remember what their military force was called that he'd been booted out of, but he got his wings back. So he now has a pair of wings that he can unfold and fly around with, kind of a la the Birdmen from
The X-Men?
No, the Hawkman. Sorry, from not Buck Rogers. What is it? Flash Gordon. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Reminded me of them.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Now that you bring it up, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much the aesthetics of it.
Yeah.
It's not your typical flashy white, wings that you like to see. This is just a more normal, than rounded wings. Yeah, and they didn't go the opposite. They could have gone full black too,
Yeah.
but no, they just went another Tuesday.
But I mean that whole sort of winged people thing, which I have a problem with, because wings of that size would have not kept a human weight in the air. There would have had to be so, and you could actually see a little bit of technology on the fore wing, so it probably wasn't biological. It was probably tech that looked somewhat biological.
They would have to have one to grab.
Well, it's the whole thing about aerodynamics of a human, which isn't great, and the fact that our bones are solid, whereas bird bones are hollow to reduce weight, but that makes them more brittle. But it's required for weight reduction so they can get in the air.
Yeah, that's
what enough lift.
I was thinking about that while I was watching him fly, and I think it has something, and that's the reason why I was saying this. I think it has something to do with some sort of
Gravity manipulation,
anti-grav technology because you have to. I mean, just like you mentioned, our weight is the problem, and you would have to kind of cut that to make it fly.
But I think the basis of a lot of their tech, the Abraxian tech, I'll call it, because that's the family that they're dealing with. Their tech was gravity manipulation related.
CERN, if you're listening, we need that. So we can be a space-bearing civilization.
Yeah. But yeah, gravity manipulation is an awesome thing. Once you can manipulate that, you can do a shit ton of stuff. So get onto it, sir.
Yeah. We don't need the amount of fuel that we need to escape the Earth gravity.
Exactly.
So let me close out my thought. I mean, we got derail like we do, because that's what we do in the show.
Overthinkers unite.
Exactly. What I was saying when, at the beginning of the film, how she's saying she hates her life, then she turns to be a millionaire, has all this power, blah, 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 goes back up.
Million. Try quintillion.
And decides to not only go back to her old life, but go back to her old life with a smile on her face. I mean, look
Yeah.
at the scene when her mom is trying to wake up and realize she's not in bed, but better yet, she's there already with coffee and breakfast,
Yeah.
which is, throws them off the loop. They're looking at each other like, what's going on? And it's, something, it's typical of a human nature. You think you have it bad, but that thing that you think will make things better, like in the example that I mentioned, someone that might not have enough money thinking that if they become a millionaire might solve their problem, that could actually be a gift from God, as a matter as why they're not, because that weight might have been more than they can um, support. And we could see here how, in this example, and this is why I said the message of the film is, where she's complaining about her life and turns out that her life was a blessing. And that's why she's going back with a smile on her face and doing, you know, do you feel, I mean, you could argue the fact that, okay, she's going back to her life not knowing that she's the owner of the planet. Yeah, that has a big, big thing to play in this. But how do you feel about that underlying message? Do you feel that
I think you missed something.
I did? Okay.
Yeah. Sure. She appreciates what she had now because she nearly lost it. That's the whole I got my family back. We're about
Yeah.
to be turned into Regenex.
Oh,
But not only that, she's in love.
yes, that too.
And when you're in love, everything looks better. So, they're in the honeymoon phase, and she's happy all the time because she loves dogs. And she's got a sort of a werewolf boyfriend, so she's on top of the world, quite literally, because she owns it. But there's that angle as well. I just thought I'd bring.
Yeah, no, you have a point there. There's so many things going on there. But yeah, I do agree with you in that perspective there. So I guess we might be, unless you have anything else to add, I think we might be in the portion of this show where we ask, what is the last impression of this film?
I want those boots. I seriously want those
Oh
boots.
God, yes, I want those boots. You mind you moon dancing with those boots?
Oh, could you imagine going to work with those boots? That'd be dead
Yeah.
easy.
Oh yes. You're
You'd skate through the sky.
picking up your date in those boots.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you could do with those boots. I want them. So CERN, you're listening, right?
We want those boots. It's a
Those
boutique Christmas gift item 2029. You got 4 years, get to it.
Nice. So this is a portion of the part of the show we asked the last question that as I mentioned earlier, what is your last thought of the film? Do you want to go first, or you
Yeah,
want?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first because I watched it 2 nights ago again. I was on the treadmill getting my steps up and watching the movie. And the movie started, and I'm like, I don't remember a huge amount about this movie. I've got to admit, it's been like nearly 10 years since I watched it the last time. I think I watched it once at the cinema and once or maybe twice a year later on home release, and then I haven't watched it again. And I've forgotten a lot of the details. I had forgotten a lot of the details thoughts because I've rewatched it, so now I have them back in my head again. But yeah, I mean, I remembered enjoying it. I remembered it being good, except for a couple of really minor niggles. And then I watched it again, and I still said to myself, "Why did this movie do so bad? It's really fun." it's just one of those movies that, like, if you don't take it ridiculously seriously, if you're not trying to like turn it into War and Peace, it's just good, honest sci-fi blockbuster adventure fun.
Yeah.
And it just it's got all the makings of a serious movie, but it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's just really enjoyable. It's a roller coaster ride, like you said. Your brother enjoyed it because it had lots of action in it, and there's all sorts of things that you can appreciate from it. It's got a bit of sort of Fifth Element in it, a bit of Star Wars in it, a bit of Dune in it, a bit of Wizard of Oz in it, a bit of The Odyssey in it. It's a whole bunch of different cool things mished together, and I think it really worked. I think it was a great story, and except for sort of like I thought the end was a little bit wishy-washy. They could have maybe angled that a bit better, pointing towards follow-ups or sequels, or given a hint of something else dark on the horizon that she'd have to deal with as the owner of Earth. But yeah, I thought it's got legs, and there could be a lot more storytelling going on in that universe. You could introduce other competing families and other reasons for the Earth to be harvested, and somebody else comes in from a different strong family trying to take the Earth off her hands. Small blackmail. The brother and sister combo that are still alive, which was her genetic predecessor's children, might try and rock up and drag her back into the family business, or force her to come and deal with things so that she manages to keep hold of Earth. There's all sorts of possibilities for storytelling which drag her off of Earth and back into the wider galactic human corporate intrigue. And I would really love to see some more of that. I think this story's got legs, and if done correctly, it could be up there with things like Battlestar Galactica and Star Wars is hard to compete with because it's so huge, just like Star Trek. I mean, they're like the two pillars of sci-fi in the Western world. But the sort of IPs that are wandering around the feet of those two pillars, like Terminator franchise, Aliens franchise, Battlestar Galactica franchise, all those sorts of big but not huge sci-fis. This one could be right up there with it if they gave it another outing. It's just a shame that it didn't quite land in the public's perception the right way at the right time, much like Pixels, much like Alita Battle Angel. All these movies have legs, but they're just not getting to run because their first outing didn't go quite the way they needed to. And it's a real shame because we get more Star Trek, we get more Star Wars, and I'd actually like to see more of these newer ones, more of these different ones. Give a bit of variety to those big two. Grow up a few of the other ones, give them a chance. I would have loved to have seen 10 seasons of Firefly, but that didn't happen either. I mean, there's been so many varied instances of great opportunities in sci-fi going to waste, and I think this is one of them.
Yeah. I agree 100% with you there. Not sure if you want to continue on.
Oh no, that was my wrap up.
That was your wrap up. Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Oh, except I've got one more thing to say.
Go ahead.
Sean Bean didn't die. What the hell?
Yeah, what happened there?
they missed an opportunity there. I mean, Stinger was a bit of a bastard. It wouldn't have been surprising if he died.
Yeah, I was. To be honest with you, I was expecting it. It never happened. So yeah, maybe that's one of that was way well played. On the film. It's a false.
They subverted expectations.
Exactly. So, my final thought on this film, I echo everything you mentioned, and I'm sure the audience have pretty much know where I'm going with this from my previous conversation, how I started the episode. But this is a great film. This is great fun. This is an epic sci-fi um, underlying love story that, like you said, has legs. If you haven't watched it by now, which you have been spoiled, um,
Hmm.
I strongly
We
recommend.
didn't tell them to go off and watch it, but if you've watched any of our other episodes, we always say, go watch the thing. We'll be here when you get back.
Yeah, oops. But then again, if you have been watching previous episodes, you know that that's what we do in this show.
Yeah.
We spoil the crap out of it. But yes, if you haven't watched it by now, I strongly recommend you watch, especially if you're a sci-fi fan like we are. This is an epic film, and it's an epic film, just like you already mentioned, that deserves um, a part two. It deserves a part three. It deserves, in my opinion, it deserves a miniseries. It deserves a TV show. It deserves a collection of books, a series of books. This, in my opinion, is how long those legs are for the story. I think there's a lot of meat that if you are a deep thinker like we are here, you want to explore those things. You want to see, like Ray mentioned, what about the other families, right? Um, this is a very valuable, very very valuable commodity, Earth, in this galactic terms. So I find it very hard to believe that she's going to be alone for much longer. There's going to be other people that will try to steal it from her because it's so valuable. Valuable things like that do get attention. Kind of like if you walk around the street with money on your pockets and they're showing, right? So there's a lot of things in this film that I want to see explored. And of course, there's no news, there's no nothing. For as far as we know, this film is not going to get any more than what it is. But the film is amazing. It is a lot of fun. And every time I watch it, and I have watched this film many times, it is the same feeling. It is exciting from the sci-fi perspective. It is exciting from the storytelling perspective. It is exciting from an action film perspective. And it delivers. In my perspective, this is a great film that deserves more than it got. And again, we haven't really come into a conclusion, a consensus as to why it didn't get there. I believe in part would be advertising, but there might be a lot of other factors that play into it. But yeah, this film deserves more than it got because it is an amazing film. And as a sci-fi fan, I would strongly recommend you watch it. I enjoy it and enjoyed it every time I rewatch it. I enjoy it the same way. Um, and again, I might be watch it. I might be watching it this week again, just because it reminds me of how much fun I have every time I watch it. So
You
yeah,
got to tell me if you spot anything new.
yeah. So if you have watched this film, get on our comment section below if you're watching it on YouTube, and let us know what your thoughts, if you agree with any of the thoughts we have mentioned here in the show, if you have new thoughts, if you disagree, just get in the comments and let's start a conversation. Let me know if you like this film, if you dislike the film, and follow on the questions that we ask. Like, first question on this episode is, when was the first time you watched it and what was your first impression? And also follow up on your last impression of the film. And this is a collection of every rewatch that you have done since the very first time that you watch all the way to whenever it is, if it is today that you watch this film. So let's start a conversation. You can join us on our Discord. That is so far the best way that you can reach out to us for a one-on-one conversation. And let's talk about this film. reach out through our socials, because I'm really curious to know what your thoughts are as to why this film, if you agree with us that this film was great, why didn't it do any better? But obviously, for all of you out there who had not watched this film, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your perspectives on this film and how you like/dislike this film. But again, as a sci-fi fan, this is a must watch, and I want to know your experience when you watch this film. And that is my last thought.
Shall we move on to the next segment?
Next segment.
The science in sci-fi.
Oh, I struggled a bit with this week. It was the science. I mean, this movie has so many great depictions of tech, which is, everybody's using it like, yeah, it's Tuesday. Nobody's waving anything around going, hey, look at my fancy sci-fi shit. I mean, there's hover bikes, there's the boots, there's
the invisibility tech was amazing.
Yeah, the stealth technology, the refinery hovering inside of Jupiter's atmosphere underneath the red dot, underneath the great storm of Jupiter. The massive space constructions at the Capitol, and the ships. The ships really impressed me. They had componentry which was not physically attached to the ship. It was being held in place with gravity waves, like tractor beams. And I thought that was really cool. I always thought that having convertible hardware, ships and what have you, with components that could be swapped in and swapped out because they're not attached, they're just held together by gravity waves, is a great sci-fi idea. And they used it heavily in this movie, from the fighters that the keepers were flying, to the Aegis cruiser, to the Warhammers, to the drop ships and the fighters that the Aegis cruiser carried, that they jumped out in a few times. It's great stuff. I really like the aesthetic for those things. But as I said before, the Abraxas and Aegis technology was centered around gravity manipulation. So it makes sense that you could have componentry which was easy to swap out, because it's not actually physically attached to your ship. It's just floating along beside it, held in position using tractor beam or gravity wave technology. So I thought it was pretty cool. The thing that I did sort of scratch my head about was the refinery, the human refinery, as in it refined humans, floating in within the atmosphere of Jupiter. I mean, these guys obviously have gravity manipulation tech, so maybe this isn't a thing. But the surface of Jupiter has a gravity of nearly 2.6 Earth gravities. So if you weighed 100 pounds on Earth, you'd weigh 253 pounds on the surface of Jupiter. Now, that mightn't seem like much considering the size differential between Earth and Jupiter, but Jupiter is made up mostly of gas. So all matter creates gravity. It's a function of matter. We're still trying to work out exactly how, but we've got some leads. It hasn't been announced that, we don't understand the whole idea of a graviton, which is what they want to call the particle that creates gravity.
CERN.
Yes, we're waiting, CERN. Let us know. You would think that a planet the size of Jupiter would be more than 2.4 times the gravity of Earth, but because it's gas, the matter is spread apart. It's not like solid, it's a gas, obviously. The more energy matter has, the further apart it moves, because of Brownian, what's called Brownian motion, where the particles are moving and bouncing off each other, and they push each other apart. So the more energy you have, the more space you have between atoms of matter, or molecules, depending on what the thing's made up of. So in a solid, it's close together. In a liquid, it's a bit further apart. And in a gas, it's even further apart. So it keeps pushing further apart the more energy it has. A gas giant is not a solid ball of matter. May have a solid core, but then it has a big area of gaseous layers, the gravity of which is keeping it all together, but it's not the equivalent of a solid ball. If you had a solid ball of matter that size, the gravities would be 20, 30, 40 times that of Earth. It would be huge, and you'd be crushing. So I was actually surprised at how little gravity Jupiter has, considering its size. But size does not equal mass and does not equal density. That's the difference. That's what we're talking about here. So I thought originally that they'd have a lot of trouble zooming around in little ships that mightn't have gravity attenuation, but obviously those little ships all have the ability to hold pieces of themselves together with nothing more than gravity waves. So obviously they do have gravity attenuation, and it wouldn't be particularly hard to create one normal Earth gravity at Jupiter, or just inside Jupiter's outer layers at this refinery, because basically the thing was floating there. It was anti-gravity. It had anti-gravity properties in and of itself, so they could create gravity however they liked. It's once we crack controlling gravity, we will have a world of technology open up to us. The possibilities don't become endless, but they certainly become epic in scale. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, imagine if you could reduce the weight of a cargo that you wanted to go into space from hundreds of tons down to tens of kilos.
Imagine transportation. That is a big thing.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why we have so much, it's part of the reason why we're having so much issue with our global warming. So it's just like, I envision that anti-gravity technology will completely change the transportation industry. I imagine flying, from one continent to the other. Transportation as a whole will completely change.
Yeah. It all just depends how much energy is required to negate gravity. If it's a lot, then our energy usage may even go up. But if we can make it not cost too much energetically, then it sort of opens up a whole world of possibilities about how we get around, about how things fly, how we get stuff into space. Every mode of transport will change. Ground effect will become the norm rather than terrestrial vehicles with wheels. It'd be very interesting, I think.
No need for roads.
Roads where we're going, we don't need roads. To quote a movie we've covered, check our back catalogue. Yeah, so I find gravity technology to be really interesting, and I look forward to. I hope I'm still here the day that we crack that.
Yeah,
because we will crack it. I mean,
well, I'm excited.
That's what humans are like.
I'm excited about quantum computers being announced. That's something that.
Oh, I was going to say something about that. A friend of the pod, Doc Joe Sweeney, has basically said in the future, when quantum computing is the norm, passwords and basically every sort of defense that we tend to use these days in ways of blocking people from accessing data will become instantly obsolete.
Yes.
The only way you'll be able to protect something some data is to physically separate it from the internet.
Well, there is a company, and I was actually watching this documentary about quantum technology. It's a bank. I think it's called HBC in London, if I'm not mistaken. They are experimenting on ways, because if you don't understand how we secure things on the internet, it's all about sending keys, and these keys are um, protected with an algorithm, and so you have and that's the reason why quantum computer will crack that key and get into anything, because they're able to just brute force multiple combinations simultaneously until they get to the right one. What they're doing is they're trying to use the entangled properties and in sending, and they're very really interesting though. And I will have to find that video and post it on our Discord so you guys can enjoy it as well. But they're experimenting with the entanglement properties of quantum computers, where they are sending, they have a detector, because when when you look at a quantum particle, that's is when its state is determined. And so basically the observer changes the state of the quantum particle. So the technology, to try not to get into too much complex, is using the technology, is using the properties of quantum in determining if that pipeline was observed or not by a hacker. So it was observed, the the superposition will change into a single position. And that's how they know that has been compromised, and they immediately can close down that pipeline. Again, I am oversimplifying it. Hopefully, do you understand it, Ray, as I explained it?
Oh yeah. Previous IP that we covered sort of went into that situation of the observer affects the outcome of the experiment. Now, what was that? That was quantum suicide.
Quantum suicide, yeah. Great.
Yeah, so go and check out our episode on quantum suicide. It was about a month or a month and a half ago, and we cover a lot of that sort of observer effects experiment just by observing it situation. It might help you understand that idea.
So I find that to be very, very clever way of using a quantum property for a defense mechanism that could potentially lead to not needing passwords, which is something great for some of our older folks. My father included, that he could never remember his passwords. Oh, there we go.
You know how many passwords I've got? About 140.
That could be a great relief, because that means that you could get assigned a key, and if your account gets compromised, it gets locked automatically, because the system will detect the superposition change to a single position. That is clever. I never really thought that could be used for security measures. And he's sure, again, they're still experimenting with it. It is not something that is out, and I'll try to find that video so you guys can watch it. But yeah, it's the HBC Bank in London is experimenting with superposition and quantum to protect their bank accounts. So sorry,
No, it's fine. Every part of this show is a conversation. I tend to ramble on in the science part because scientist. But if you know more than me about a subject, you're very welcome to head off in any particular direction you like. That's what this show's about, man.
Nice.
So I do have one other point that I wanted to bring up, and that is, of course, the splices in this movie. So we have Kane, Kane Wise, who is a dog splice, canine splice. canine. And Stinger. Gee, I wonder what sort of splice he could be.
I gotta think about that and get back to you.
Really? Really? What was the insect that was that had hives all around his house? The ones
not
that
a wasp.
recognize the ones that recognize Jupiter as royalty.
It's not a wasp, is it?
No.
It's
Bees.
a bee.
Stinger is a bee splice. So he has bee, apparently. He has bee genes spliced into his human DNA.
I like to guess he has a stinger also. We didn't get
What I was reading didn't mention that, but it did say that he had what was it? Distance and direction superpositioning. He had enhanced eyesight and a huge loyalty factor. So he was actually very loyal to the Abraxas because that has been bred into him genetically. Now, Cain had amazing sense of smell and his dogged determination. And his huge need for a pack, which basically turned out to be Jupiter. Jupiter is his alpha. So he is her puppy.
All hail the queen.
Yeah, that's right. Just because her genes happen to be exactly the same as the genes of a previous matriarch. That's like winning the lotto, the galactic lotto. So I decided to ask Gemini, is it possible to splice animal genes with human genes and make people with animal traits? And then the AI came back to me, yes, it is possible to splice animal genes with human genes to create human-animal hybrids, but it is a controversial topic, no shit. That's subject to legal, moral, and technological debate. And I thought, yeah, fair enough. So human-animal hybrids, these organisms have cells that contain both human and non-human genetic material. For example, humanized mice are genetically modified to have human genes that are used in medical research. You may remember back about a decade ago, they had that mouse that grew a human ear on its back that they were going to use to transplant. Didn't hear again how that went. Like, I think maybe it got shut down because of the moral implications. But I mean, it was a proof of concept. Yeah, that's been that. So some of the risks of human-animal hybrids. Human-animal hybrids carry some risks, and these are concerns about the potential to create existential angst. Existential angst. That's a good one. But basically, you know, people concerned about how modified humans might differ from us normal folk, and you know, whole new race wars and racism against people who have been modified. That whole sort of idea has come up time and time again in various sci-fi IPs.
Gattaca.
Yeah, exactly. Research potential. Human-animal hybrids have significant research potential, such as generating antibodies to treat cancer that the human body won't reject. It can also be used to test new drugs. So I'm not thinking that that's human with animal traits, but more animals with human traits. Apparently, in 2019, there was a Chinese scientist. Nikky announced that he had created the world's first gene-edited human babies, which was condemned by the Chinese establishment and declared illegal. So it's not like it can't be done. Just mostly everywhere is making it illegal to be done. In contrast, humans and animals genetically can't produce offspring because their genomes are too different to mix. It's the basis of a species. The definition of a species is a group of animals that can copulate and reproduce and create a viable offspring. So depending on where you look on the internet, you can find copulation between people and animals. Don't recommend it. It's not good for the brain to watch things like that. But it is possible, but they cannot produce viable offspring. So they're different species, and it won't happen naturally. And there's variations in the genomes even within the mammal group, which we are part of, which make it impossible for the genes to combine and create viable offsprings, even though they have the same number of chromosomes. Things just don't match up, so it's not possible. Having said that, editing in animal DNA to then create human-animal hybrids like these splices is beyond us at a functional level at this point, because we don't know enough about what the genes are encoding for and how they do it, to then splice in DNA from another animal and then get the sense of smell of a dog or the sense of hearing of a bat or what have you. So while it is possible to move genes around, we've still got a long way to go to understand exactly what each gene does, how it does it, and how it would react to having that gene swapped out with one from another species. If that sort of stuff is legal and continues, then eventually that understanding would come to be. But at this point, it's considered abhorrent and illegal in most civilized countries. I'm sure there will be uncivilized countries or uncivilized places in the world where that sort of research will be undertaken, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I mean, we're humans. We need to know. We want to know these things. That's where the mad part comes in the mad scientist. Are you mad? Possibly.
Nice. But that reminds me of the type of conversation that we had on that episode on Gattaca that we had on season 1. So if you guys want to hear that conversation, you go down to our back catalog. Season 1, I believe, is only on Pod. We weren't on YouTube back in season 1, so you would have to go down to our something like Spotify, go down to season 1 and listen to our Gattaca episode. But yeah, we had a very good conversation. At that time, it was just me and Chaos about, I believe, that very same Chinese scientist, which might have been the inspiration for the movie.
So that kind of brings us to a wrap with the science behind science fiction. Again, highly recommend this movie. You should go and watch it if you haven't already. I mean, if you're listening to me now and you haven't watched it, we've spoiled the crap out of it. But still go watch it. It's good. Get a big screen and watch it. Now, if you found this episode entertaining and interesting and you've got something to say, you can say it. You can join our Discord and you can tell us all about it. We'd love to hear from you. We always like to know what our listeners think of what we've got to say, whether you agreed with us or not. We're always interested in differences of opinion because I'm not against being convinced that my understanding was limited and that you've got another idea that makes a whole lot of sense. And I'll definitely prescribe to it if it makes sense. And I hadn't thought about it before. Because that's what overthinkers do. We just keep thinking, we keep picking up information, and we keep thinking about it some more. That's half the fun of it. But yeah, you can join us on our Discord. You will need either the app on your phone or the app on your computer. It's very easy to set up an account if you don't have one already. And of course, if you do have an account, just scan the barcode you can see on the screen on YouTube right now, or go to the link in the show notes and click that invite link, and you can join us on our Discord very quickly. When you get on our Discord, please read the do's and don'ts and pick the channels that you're interested in. And you too can be chatting to us on the Science Fiction Remnant Discord about this or any of the other episodes in our back catalogue, or IPs that you happen to like, because we're always interested to find out about new sci-fi. New sci-fi is awesome, and we'd love to hear about your favorites. Now, of course, we have a couple of websites. The first one is sciencefictionremnant.com. That is the main portal for the podcast. You can go there and find out what our latest released episode is, probably this one if you're listening to me right now, or future ones. And of course, our back catalogue is there as well. You can have a bit of a scan through that and find IPs that you're interested in, and find out something new about something that you've watched, or find something new to watch. These are all options with the Science Fiction Remnant back catalogue. If you're a creator, it would be great if you could join us on thisissci-fi.net. That's the one for the sci-fi creators. It's in its infancy at the moment, but it would be great if you could join us there and add your creations and your interests to that website, and help us grow it, because that one's for everybody who's a creator to be part of the This is Sci-Fi hashtag and movement, and get your sci-fi out there for more viewers, more listeners, more watchers, and more interaction. Interaction on sci-fi is awesome. We have a Substack. Substack is a system that you can join up to, and you can get regular updates on what we're doing and what other sci-fi creators are doing on Substacks, either delivered to your email, or you can go into the website and view them when you have the opportunity. But check us out there. We have different sci-fi stories and articles going on there on a regular basis. So do check back on the regular to find out more about what we're thinking about in the fields of science fiction and science of the times coming into the year 2025, which is the future as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Threads, which is part of Instagram, and is kind of the new X, because X is kind of meh. But you will find us on Threads. We're pretty busy there, and the interaction on Threads is really cool. It's quite refreshing and positive, so highly recommend you check out Threads, and you can find us there posting on the regular about things to do with science fiction and science. We do have a Buy Me a Coffee. That is an option if you want to help out the podcast. Making a podcast isn't free. Robert is shouldering the bills on that at the moment. But if you'd like to throw a few dollars our way to help us out, to keep the podcast running, and show your appreciation for what we do, we'd really appreciate it. So scan that link or follow the link in the show notes, and drop us a few dollars there to help us out and keep the podcast running. Remember, we do have a hotline. You can leave us a message on 1305-563-6334. That's 1305-563-6334. That is a worldwide number. You just put the prefix to calling the USA from your country on that number, and drop the one if you're in the continental United States. You can leave a message there day or night to talk about your favorite sci-fi, what you thought about one of our podcasts, or suggesting something that we could cover in the future for another episode of the show. But thank you all for joining us. We do appreciate your listenership and viewership. Remember to sign up to our YouTube channel if you haven't done already. That would really help us out. It's something you can do which doesn't cost you a dime. And you too can join us with the podcast on your favorite podchaser or on YouTube, and then jump on our Discord and chat with us, because we'd really love to have you there. And remember, when you're talking on a platform like Discord, you get out what you put in. Ask questions. Tell us about what your favorite sci-fi is. Tell us about yourself. Just start talking and you'll get responses. So keep the discussion going there over on Discord, and join us again for the next episode of Science Fiction Remnant. Bye for now.